And what was the decision you made?
We were trying to find a larger house that was affordable, and it was not in Canada, and so we decided to move to Nicaragua.
Pierre Poilievre is highlighting all the Canadians that are desperate to leave Canada and are leaving Canada. And I hear from hundreds of you all the time that are leaving Canada and have left Canada. And the reality of this situation is that most of the people leaving, these are people with businesses, these are people with skills, and they're taking them elsewhere. This is an utter brain drain that has been going on for the past 4 to 5 years. And has definitely accelerated and accelerated and accelerated. And even with changes in political leadership, I do not see this slowing down, because Canadians are beginning to see the writing on the wall. And that is that you can change the facade of the establishment, but that does not change what's going on behind the scenes. Anyway, let's get into what Pierre is highlighting, which I think is very important. First of all, he's talking with a lady who is left to go to Nicaragua.
Everyone meet Raquel. You'll never believe what she's done. Raquel, you and your family made a decision after you had your newborn.
Daughter, yeah, she's 3 now.
She's 3 now?
Yeah.
And what was the decision you made?
We were trying to find a larger house that was affordable, and it was not in Canada, and so we decided to move to Nicaragua.
You moved to Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Where were you living in Canada before?
Well, we lived here for 5 months while we were fishing in Cape Breton, and then 7 months was in my hometown in Squamish.
This is nuts. So her family, a family from Cape Breton, fishing family, can't afford to live here and has to move to Nicaragua. Did you have any connection to Nicaragua?
No,
you
not
just
at all.
did your research
We
and
went,
said this is a place where we can afford
packed
to
our
live.
backpacks and flew down blindly. And
You know what? It's kind of crazy the amount of people that are leaving and going to places like Nicaragua, going to places like Panama, going to places like Costa Rica, Mexico, Dominican Republic, loads of different places, including the United States. There's even been news articles that have come out about this recently. But here's the thing. Pierre goes, oh yeah, this is because of Justin Trudeau and she just can't afford it. But he hasn't really shown any economic policies that are actually going to change this for the better. He's just using this as political leverage, essentially, for the upcoming election. And he knows he's running on this anti-Trudeau platform that resonates with many people, because many people, including myself, absolutely hate what Trudeau has done to Canada. But I have to highlight, he doesn't really have any solutions to this that I've seen that are going to be very good. I mean, his solution to the housing problem is just cut red tape and build, build, build. That's not going to work. That's just going to make the economy more dependent on housing. He's not addressing the immigration and the migration, because he knows that that's going to be a big part of his voting audience that he's got to convince to vote for him. So I don't know, until he comes forward with some economic policies that we can take a look at, it's very hard for me to just believe that he is anything different than just a populist leader. Now, I do think he's very clever. I think he's very smart and well-spoken and articulate, and I think that comes across, and he doesn't seem to come from that elitist background either, which is very, very interesting. But the amount of people that are fleeing Canada are fleeing Canada because of the high cost, and they realize things like it's because of the way Canada is structured in terms of the monopolies and the oligarchies. I mean, with the airlines, you have no choice but 2 airlines, Air Canada or WestJet or Porter, but they don't fly many different places. So you don't have many choices when it comes to airlines. When it comes to grocery store chains, Loblaws is under investigation right now by the Competition Bureau along with Sobeys for collaborating together to keep other players out of the grocery monopolies in Canada. And then you wonder why food prices just keep skyrocketing every time you go to the grocery store. And it's frustrating because we have no other choices. There are no other places that we can go, and the oligarchies keep these prices high. And not only that, they pay people a pittance as well and are part of the driving force behind the immigration and the migration. And this is one point that I don't really see Pierre is addressing right now, and I really want to see him address in the future and in the upcoming election. It's going to be really interesting to see how he talks about immigration, because if you noticed how he talks about immigration, it's been very, very tread carefully, tread tread lightly, you don't want to offend anybody. And by the way, I'm not anti-immigrant, of course, that would make me a hypocrite. After all, I'm an immigrant, and I'm not anti-immigrant at all. I believe in immigration, but the current immigration methods that we have, they try and convince you that they're bringing in all these highly skilled immigrants, and the reality is they're bringing all these low skilled immigrants that are keeping wages low on the lower end of the scale, keeping more people in poverty, and it's also putting immense pressure on government services, on housing, and all these other things where you could have lower immigration of a higher quality. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens moving forward. And now we're going to look at another video which talks about another entrepreneur that is also leaving Canada. But as I said, I talk to many of you all the time. In fact, the most common conversation that I have with you guys is, I want to leave Canada. How do I leave Canada? Where do I go? And all these different things. So what that tells me, and when speaking and getting to know you guys, a lot of the people who are leaving are the ones with the means to actually leave. So these are the ones with skills, these are the ones with businesses. And it's because of the failing economy in Canada, the regulatory red tape and everything else that goes along with it. People are just fed up and they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And even with Pierre, who's going to be a better prime minister than Justin Trudeau, although you could put up a sock puppet and it would be a better prime minister than Justin Trudeau, isn't really offering any great alternative, isn't really saying anything that is radical. And he's really going to break up these oligarchies and change things for the better, create free zones, increase investment opportunity, cut through all this red tape and regulatory hurdles that Canadian businesses and foreign businesses especially have to put up with, and just discourage investment, which helps the oligarchies just keep their grasp on Canada and Canadians and keep those prices high. So let's get right into it with this video that is also about somebody who is leaving Canada.
I'm going to begin with a text message I just got from a small businessman in Ottawa who's opened some beautiful, legendary local restaurants. Fratelli's, which is Italian for brothers, and Roberto's, an incredible pizza shop, a beautiful pizza shop where you can get some wood oven pizza. He sent me this message. Hi, Victor. He was responding to a friend who asked him about a business investment opportunity in Ottawa. He replies, "Hi, Victor, I appreciate you thinking of me. I'm personally done with investing any time or money in Canada. I've actually started the process of leaving. My kids have already left and don't want to come back here. One is in Italy, the other in Florida."
And you know, another thing that's quite something that I hear a lot is people in Canada like, I can't leave my children. And don't just think that, you know, you have to stay. It might take 3-4 years for you to break out of Canada, but if you put the wheels in motion right now, explore the places that you want to go, make plans and try and structure yourself in a way that you can leave, even if you just dream of it and visualize it, then I know and I believe that you'll be able to follow through and do it.
We're extremely happy and living life the way it should be lived. It's sad, but it's my new reality based on what's happening with this Liberal Prime Minister and Canada for the next generation. I hope all is well with you and your family. Lastly, FYI, I found out today that 46% of businesses in the downtown business improvement area will not renew their leases.
And again, like, what does that tell you? Because we've already got business insolvencies that are absolutely skyrocketing. And I've always said how that is a leading indicator of what's going to happen with layoffs that are coming. And the labor market is by no means strong right now in Canada. And you've got immigration that is making growth look better than it actually is. But this guy obviously blames the Prime Minister, and much of the blame can be placed on the Prime Minister because he has made things so much worse in many different ways. But again, a lot of the problems that were actually in Canada were there before, and they were growing and growing and growing throughout when Harper was Prime Minister, for example, in the background. But they just got to a point where they got bigger and bigger and bigger and more noticeable. For example, things like inflation. You know, inflation has been a problem for a long, long time since they started meddling with the CPI CPI and changing things so that it makes inflation look like it's lower than it actually is, so they can inflate your dollars away faster. And to you, it just looks like, oh, inflation is around 2%. But what is 2%? Nobody even questions that. And Pierre is somebody that says inflation should be around 2%. Well, I think inflation should be around 0% if you want stable money. I personally think that governments shouldn't have the influence to create money. I think the currency that should circulate in economy should be a different currency which the government has zero control over, so that constrains the government from constantly bending over and doing things that make the country worse and basically trying to cater for all the voters even though they don't have the money. So they just create this fictional money through deficit spending, and sometimes that's monetized by the central bank, which is almost criminal. So I'm not seeing the economic policies that are coming through yet from Pierre, but I'm sure that there are going to be economic policies that are coming down the pipe, and I can't wait to review them as they come. I'm not dismissing Pierre, saying that he's a terrible candidate or anything like that, but I do not trust any politician, and I'm immensely skeptical, and I believe it is what a politician does that matters and not what they say they will do. They always talk the talk, but do they walk the walk? That's what it's all about. You've got a populist liberal prime minister up against a populist conservative. So with populists, they're just trying to cater for everybody out there, and we will see what happens. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend that you check out this video here. And if you're looking for a VPN to get around Trudeau's censorship, go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. That's the VPN that I use. I will see you in the next one. Take care.